Sean, was that the most pleasing night's work so far of pre-season?
Yeah, I think when you're trying to do pre-season, you want to see improvement, and that was a massive improvement. Part of the stuff that we see on the training ground has manufactured itself in a game against really good opposition. So that's the pleasing aspect, and the more that happens, the more the players get a little bit more confidence in trying to do the things that we want them to do, and that they understand and they want to do it as well. So I think everybody's, like you say, singing on the. We're all trying to understand what we're trying to do and actually trying to do it and understand where we're not doing it so well, and don't take it as a criticism, take it as a way to improve. So that's a massive step forward for us.
Was that much more like how you want your Bristol City to play tonight?
To be fair, I like people to have options on the ball, and I think if you give Neil Kilkenny options of the ball, what we've got to teach him is to pick the right options quicker. And I think that's the first time really for Neil that he's picked the right options consistently over 90 minutes, and then he looks a really good player. And you could say that about Jordan Winter, you could say that about Sam Baldock, Aidan Flint. So you can say that about a lot of them. So it's just they're the principles that you've got to work with. The times at the end you've got to battle. There's a corner comes in the box and people have got to do their jobs. And if it's there to be cleared, it's there to be cleared. And you've got to have a little bit of grit as well as a bit of guile. So we showed both tonight. Again, like I say, against a team that will be there or thereabouts in the Championship.
Is Neil Kilkenny one in particular that you'd really like to integrate into your side? Because you spoke about how he played last season. It's a bit different now.
You want to integrate everybody, but it's you've got to try and make sure that everybody can function in the team. That means everybody adapting, because we can't play. If we want to play. Aidan Flink's more comfortable doing one thing. He wants to head it and kick it. So we want him to do that. But there's also times when, to be fair to Aidan, he'll make himself available for the ball. So we've got to make sure that we give him as many options as we can. And the more options we give him, hopefully the more times he'll pick the right one. So that's for everybody. And if you want to, as I said before, we're in a situation where we sort of moved from being a position-based team where it was crucial that we got the ball in the box as early as we could and tried to be functional, to something that's a little bit more pleasing on the eye. But still, we've got to win games. That's the be all and end all of it. And but this is I'm sure if you're supporting any football club, you want to win. And really, are you really bothered about the way they play? I'm not sure, but I think this is I think if we want to. Just as the players, that everybody now has come off the pitch has been influenced by the game. So whether you've played for a minute, 2 minutes, 90 minutes, you're associated with a good performance, and that helps everybody. So if we can get that I want to be associated with a good performance, then get that throughout the football club. Then we're on the right lines then.
Albert Adomah will no doubt grab the headlines tonight. Was it a case of planning for having him in your side long term tonight?
Well, I said we didn't take him to Spain, and he's not been included in any pre-season friendlies, which is not ideal for us and not ideal for Albert. And you wanted the situation sorted, and I said along, if it wasn't sorted by after the trip from Spain, then I'm going to play him. So if the club said no, or if Albert said no, then that's fair enough. But he needs to play. His attitude's been first class. He's been terrific. He's not gone to Spain, and the reports back he's been fantastic with the youngsters and worked really hard. And you've got to reward people like that. He's been a good servant to the football club. And I think he's got his head round. If he's not going to be, it's not going to be, and we can use him. So, but you understand his situation. There's been various offers for him, and like all players, he'd like to play in a high division. So. I think you've got to see both sides of it and come up with something that everybody's happy with or everybody's unhappy with, whichever one it is. What you don't want is one side of somebody being happy and somebody being unhappy. I think that's a wrong situation to be in. So I don't particularly want him to go, but I understand his situation. So I think we've got to be mature about it and handle it in the right way. And he has, and hopefully we'll do the same.
No Steven Davies tonight. Any news on him?
The club have accepted a bid from Blackpool, and so Stephen's got an opportunity to go and speak to him. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Has he made any noises to you about whether he might prefer to be elsewhere?
Well, every player in this club wants to play in the highest division he can. So some of them will have the opportunity, some of them won't. He's got an opportunity. Like I say, he's under contract, so the club first and foremost have got to accept a bid, which has happened. So there's a process to go through. So he then obviously is free to talk to Blackpool. So there's a logistic issue. He's a Liverpool lad, so it's closer to home and all the other issues that players have. But like I said, nobody's pushing him out the door. We've accepted a bid because we think it's a fair one, and we're in a position, like I said before, that we no longer is this club going to, spend millions and millions and millions of pounds. It's we've got to try and be prudent with what we do. If the offer's acceptable, then we have to move on and try and replace him. Unfortunately,
on the downside, I gather you've had some bad news on the training field today.
Yeah, unfortunate, and again. Soured the day really. I mean, Liam Kelly's ruptured his cruciate ligament in training. One of those injuries that I think every time it happens, it's usually innocuous. And this was exactly the same. Just turned and unfortunately got injured. And I think everybody thought at the time, I think Liam doesn't get injured, and he trains every day, and he trains 100%. He's been a great lad to have in the squad, and it's just a shame it's happened. But it's on the plus side, if there is a plus side, it's clean. There's no articular damage, there's no bone damage, which sometimes you can get in this type of injury. So it's a clean one. So hopefully after Christmas he'll be back.
And Elliot Parish, any news on a deal for him?
Yeah, I think we've agreed. He's on the bench tonight, so I think it's dotting the I's and crossing the T's. But I think that's all done by the shouting, so he'll be a good addition at 23 to push Frankie. Showed a good attitude in training, good character, works well with the goalkeeping coach, and like I say, at 23, 6'3", he's a quality addition to the squad.
We know Marlon Harewood was involved again tonight. Is he the only possible addition now between here and the end?
Marlon wasn't due down to be. He's some way off match fitness, so we were, he's trained hard this week, and we weren't going to use him, but obviously with Steven Davies pulling out at the last minute, then we drafted Marlon in to give him an introduction to Ashton Gate, and he's trained with the boys, so we'll wait and see what happens with that one.
Are you still looking at possible more arrivals, particularly to fill the Kelly void?
Yeah, I think if Steven actually goes, I think we need another striker. We need another quick one. I think Sam Baldock's proved his worth against this opposition, and I think he'll prove his worth in League One. So, but if he's not available, then if we could get somebody of that ilk in, then I think that would improve the squad. And obviously Liam's situation has just happened, so we're going to have to, it's an opportunity for people, and but we're a bit light on numbers in some senses. We've got the Albert situation has to be addressed, so we're juggling a few balls at the minute, and hopefully it'll be resolved before we start the league campaign. But we don't want to jump into anything and make a mistake. We've got some time before the window shuts, and then we've got the loan option. So there's one or two things going on, but nothing concrete.